People started to talk about a Brexit drama during the corona crisis. They say everything is even more difficult than expected. The mood is depressed, the suspicions are dark. Well, relations between the EU and the United Kingdom have to be reorganized within a few months, but the differences don't seem to be able to be bridged at the moment. Brexit was a good 100 days ago, and it already looks like a phantom from the distant past. The corona crisis has replaced everything. I try not to let this happen on this channel, so I try to concentrate on politics and don't, like many others, report on corona all the time. I still believe other topics are important as well. Because in the shadow of this big drama, a smaller one has taken place. For the third time since the beginning of March, the negotiators of the European Union and the United Kingdom have brooded over how the newly divorced partners can work together in the future. The aim is, or should be, to keep the damage to the closely interlinked economies as small as possible. But the results are sobering. Just a small recap, what are they negotiating at all? It's about a trade agreement, but also about fishing rights, trademark rights, free movement, joint crime hunt, data protection, climate protection, energy supply, securing air and rail traffic. In short, everything that is no longer regulated after the British exit at the end of January. So far, of course, nothing has changed because the transition period is on and it will be on until the 31st of December in 2020. Great Britain is still in the European single market, it is still in the customs union, and still adheres to EU rules. But why are these negotiations important? Without new agreements, there will be a hard break at the end of the year. According to the rules of the WTO, the World Trade Organization, customs duties would have to be introduced, for example, and strict goods inspections have to be required under EU rules. And also hundreds of legal questions would remain unanswered. For the economy on both sides, this is not a wanted scenario, especially inside of this pandemic. But why is the EU dissatisfied? I made a whole video about that before, so let's have a quick look at that too. EU chief negotiator Barnier expressed his concerns because he's not optimistic, and he even accuses Britain of blocking important issues or even blocking to negotiate on certain issues. That includes this so-called level playing field. That means the demand for equal competitive conditions, and that on both sides of the English Channel. The EU offers a trade agreement without tariffs and quotas, but demands compliance with the same environmental and social standards. Other problematic points there are fishing in UK waters and the ECJ, the European Court of Justice. In Brussels, of course, some people complain that key points of all these topics have already been agreed on in the political declaration of the withdrawal agreement. And they say that just London moved away from that. Of course, the political declaration was not binding, but why sign something if you completely don't agree with that? I know that many commenting on my channel say that the political declaration is just a piece of paper and doesn't count at all, but governments should have a certain pride of honesty. But with hearing all this, what does Britain want? The British government is drawing red lines on all the 3 points I just mentioned. They demand that the EU drops their call for level playing field because that would limit their sovereignty to set their own rules and to free themselves from the EU rules. In addition, that would be far more than the EU ever demanded from any other trading partner. They want to regulate access to their fishing waters on their own, although in the meantime, obviously they handed over something as a basis for the negotiations in the case of fishing. So a compromise there seems to be possible. And of course they don't want to recognize the ECJ as an arbitrator. In addition, suddenly London does not want a comprehensive contract, they just want a series of small ones. And of course they do not want to know anything about an extension. And they still believe they can agree on an agreement until June. So they don't want an extension and they won't accept it if the EU is asking for one, which would be stupid for the EU to do because then London can blame everything on the EU. They are not too slow, they can't do it in the time, and so on and so on and so on. But why isn't London afraid of a cold break? EU sources are quite sure that Prime Minister Boris Johnson is betting on a mix of poker and time pressure to get far more concessions from Brussels than he can get now. And in due course, Johnson himself wants to get involved. It was said recently by negotiating circles in London. And a summit on both sides is anyway planned for June. At an event organized by the state of Hesse, the German EU ambassador Michael Klaus speculated that the real negotiations will anyway only start after the meeting of the heads of government and heads of states in Brussels, and that there still would be a chance to at least agree on some core elements. But the pressure would be enormous, because any agreement has to be ready in October to be ratified. Don't forget, it has to be ratified in 28 different countries, the UK and the EU 27, and that after it was ratified by the European Council and the European Parliament. So October is really the last chance to do that. If it doesn't work, then the corona crisis would probably play into Boris Johnson's hands, because cynics say the economic downturn of the pandemic could mask the turbulence of Brexit. If you now want to know more about European politics from a German point of view, I put my next video in the end screen. Click and enjoy. I'll see you there. Viel Spaß!